If you also think that Apple is launching the same iPhone design every year, then maybe you're right. But how much an iPhone has changed in last 5 years? Today, we'll compare this year's iPhone 16 Pro with iPhone 11 and we'll see how much it has changed in terms of design, usability and overall product. And after the analysis, there's one thing that I found that makes them feel almost similar and kills all the excitement. So if you're new to this channel, then please consider subscribing if you like to watch more content related to design and science behind the products. And now, let's start with the unboxing. So when you order home delivery from Apple, even the outer cardboard box is optimized in size and has the same pull tabs as the Apple white boxes. Let's stir them up. And here we have the usual box for the iPhone. Very slim and compact as there are no manuals or a charger, and this year they even removed the stickers. Apple has switched to 100% fiber-based packaging for the net carbon zero goal for 2030. 5 years ago, this number was 93%. So Apple is really making strides towards the carbon goal. These fibers come from mostly wood like bamboo, sugarcane, waste of rice, corn, wheat, and some recycled materials. But the ink, adhesive, and this coating are still plastics. So there is still some chances of improvement here. Let's tear these pull tabs. Here you have the perfect box tension to reveal the new iPhone. You're welcomed with the phone facing downwards, as the back is the identity of a phone, because from the front, most of the smartphones looks the same. Let's keep it aside for a moment. Then you have this Type-C to Type-C cable, thanks to EU regulations. It seems that Apple has made it standard to include a braided cable with all the devices. No design changes for the SIM tool, some paperwork in different languages. But now let's get back to the phone. One interesting fact is that Apple still includes the signifiers on the front cover. After more than 15 years of people using smartphones, everybody knows that this is a power button, these are volume rockers, but still they like to print it here for the first time users. Now let's peel the cover. And here you have the new iPhone. Let me tell you one interesting story about product unboxing. Before 2001, all the electronic devices used to come with an empty battery because of some shipping rules. Then with the first iPod, Apple started shipping pre-charged devices so that we don't have to wait 30 minutes to experience the products. So while I set up the device, let's talk and compare the physical design of the device. The iPhone 11 was built with an aluminum frame and rounded edges, both on the corners as well as on the sides, which make it feel even slimmer than it actually is. This aluminum looks matte but has a smooth finish which makes it a bit slippery in hand, so using a case was almost necessary. The rounded design also gave it a bit more approachable look. The iPhone 16 Pro on the other hand has moved away from that rounded look and is now built with a titanium frame, making it both lighter and more durable. The flat edges and matte finish give it a more industrial and polished appearance. While the flat edges may look sharp, but if you see closely, they are filed at the corner. They offer better grip and make the phone easier to hold even without a case. This shift to titanium is a part of Apple's focus on reducing weight while increasing strength, and you can really feel the difference in weight and grip when holding the two phones side by side. Now, let's move to the buttons. iPhone 11 has just 4 buttons. 1 power, 2 volume rockers, and 1 mute switch. In iPhone 16 Pro, the mute switch is replaced by a customizable action button. And then there is this new camera button, which Apple refuses to call a button and keep insisting on calling it camera control. But if we compare and look at the ergonomics and comfort of these buttons, the power button on 16 series is much more reachable than iPhone 11. And a lot of people argue that the action button is unreachable, but if you look here, Apple has put it at the same spot as the upper volume rockers in iPhone 11. So it has the same reachability as the upper volume button, and the new volume buttons are even more within the reach. But if we talk about the camera control, that's really in an awkward position for both landscape as well as portrait shots. In landscape, this control button should be a bit more to the right, otherwise it blocks your view, and it clearly is not ideal to use camera control for portrait shots. But all things aside, this camera control button is indeed very interesting. It is a button which when pressed opens the camera app, and in the camera app, single press clicks a photo and long press starts a video. But if you see it closely, it has a sapphire glass on the top with capacitive touch functionality. So you slightly press it in the camera app to open up these camera controls, and then you can scroll and with a double light press, select the setting that you want to change. These light presses are not actual button presses, but are made possible with haptic feedbacks. It would be great if Apple could also include Touch ID in this button, but maybe for the next year. Then on the front, both of them have the same height, but iPhone 16 Pro is about 4mm less wide, which makes it a bit more easy to hold. And the second difference is the notch on the iPhone 11 and the pill or the dynamic island on the iPhone 16 Pro. iPhone 11 was the second generation of Face ID setup. It had an extra infrared camera, a dot projector, a flood illuminator with a standard camera, a proximity sensor, and an ambient light sensor. In iPhone 16 Pro, only the main front camera, infrared camera, and the dot projector are visible. Rest everything has been hidden under the screen. Let's see when Apple will be able to hide everything under the screen and give us a full screen phone. And the most important thing on the front is the screen, which is a huge upgrade if you're coming from iPhone 11. First, you get a lot more of screen real estate and a lot less bezels in the iPhone 16 Pro. Then, you also get the option of always on display that dims the screen rate to 1 Hz to consume less battery. But one interesting element in the screen of the iPhone 11 is how the curve at the ends of screen meets seamlessly in the curves of the body. Like on the iPhone 16 series, I can clearly feel and tell the boundaries of the body and the screen glass, but not in the iPhone 11. Starting with the iPhone 11, Apple used what they call the Liquid Retina HD display, which is essentially a fancy name for a standard LCD screen that other phones have used for years. And the iPhone 16 Pro comes with what Apple calls Super Retina XDR display, which again is Apple's marketing term for their OLED technology that you find on many flagship smartphones these days. However, the big difference here is in the brightness and the contrast. The iPhone 16 Pro has a peak brightness of 2000 nits, which is almost double that of the iPhone 11. This makes a huge difference, especially when you're outside in direct sunlight, where the iPhone 16 Pro remains much more visible and easy to use. The iPhone 11, on the other hand, could struggle in those situations, making it harder to read or view content outdoors. OLEDs are naturally better at producing true blacks because each pixel can turn on or off individually, and the iPhone 16 Pro takes full advantage of that. The contrast ratio is much higher, so images and videos feel more dynamic with deep blacks and vibrant colors. The contrast ratio on an LCD is naturally limited because it can't produce the deep blacks that an OLED screen can. As a result, the blacks on the iPhone 11's display are more like dark grays, and the colors, while vibrant, don't quite pop up like they do on the newer models. Another significant design change on the iPhone 16 Pro screen is the integration of the dynamic island. The screen now wraps around, allowing it to adapt and transform depending on what you're doing, whether it's showing notifications, live activities, or even interacting with your apps. That's the Apple way of saying that we are releasing this feature years after Android, but we made it much better. Now, looking at the back design, the iPhone 11 has a glossy glass back with a dual camera setup housed in a square bump. While the glass adds a premium feel, it's prone to fingerprints and scratches. The camera bump is minimal but still causes a slight wobble when the phone is laid flat on a surface, but it's not too noticeable. The Apple logo is centered and shiny, and the curved edges of the back make it comfortable to hold, but it's a bit slippery without a case. The iPhone 16 Pro takes a more industrial approach, with a matte finish that resists fingerprints and feels more refined. The camera bump is much larger due to the triple camera setup, which significantly improved photography but also creates a more pronounced wobble when placed on the table. The use of titanium for the frame adds to the premium feel, and the flat back design not only makes it more durable but also give it a sharper, more modern look compared to the iPhone 11. Now enough about the physical design. Let's talk things that change in terms of iPhone as a product. So there are some obvious upgrades, like the chipset has moved from A13 Bionic to A18 Bionic, with almost the same cores for CPU and GPU. But the cores for the neural engine has almost doubled. So instead of focusing on which one of these phones can open apps or games a few seconds faster, let's see what those double neural engines can do, which is advanced camera processing and the Apple Intelligence. So if you're coming from iPhone 11 like me, the cameras are one of the major upgrades. The iPhone 11 had a dual camera setup with a 12 megapixel wide and 12 megapixel ultra wide lens, which was great for its time, but the iPhone 16 Pro takes it up several notches. With a 48 megapixel main sensor, 48 megapixel ultra wide, and a dedicated 5x telephoto lens, you get incredible detail in every shot, whether it's low light photography portrait mode, or zooming in for distant subjects. The iPhone 16 Pro delivers professional level results. Let's go out and see them side by side. So here is the main photo from the rear camera at 0.5x. This is out of the pocket, I didn't focus anywhere. And you can see the difference in the color of the sky, the rocks, the shadow, and the greens. Then I zoom into 1x, and you can see the new cameras can still extract some colors out of the blue sky, but the old ones cannot. Everything looks a bit oversaturated. And if we move even closer, then you can see the difference in the details of the leaves, colors, especially those blacks in the background. Everything looks a bit washed out with the iPhone 11. And now let's close up a bit more with 25x. You can see this beautiful grainy pattern on the sculpture here, but unfortunately iPhone 11 does not support more than 5x. Same goes for the portraits. The object separation is not that different, but the amount of colors and details in the new cameras are much better. If we talk about macro photos, there's no comparison. This is a macro shot of fibers of the pillow. The new cameras gives a beautiful detailed look, but the iPhone 11 looks almost like a badly zoomed image. So if you want a phone that you can just take out of the pocket and capture photos without thinking, this upgrade might be worth it. And now let's talk about the video capabilities. iPhone cameras are usually much better at taking videos than photos. Let's go out again and compare both of these phones. This is the footage from iPhone 11 camera. Here you can see the details in 0.5x, 1x and 3x. And there is not much detail in the frame when you zoom to 3x. Now let's do the same shot with 16 Pro. Again, start with the ultra wide 0.5x, then we'll go to 1x, 3x and 5x. You can see the lens shifting during each zoom, and at 5x, the details and quality is miles apart between the two phones. For videos, iPhone 16 Pro introduced some new features. Now you can record slow-mo video even in 4K. Here you can see the difference. There are much more details and colors in the footage of the new iPhone. And the most underrated new feature is the new microphone setup. Now you get 3 different microphones in iPhone 16 Pro, and all of them are active while recording a video. You can just go in the audio mix option and choose the microphone you want. Hello, so I'm at the river. It's quite windy and there's traffic outside. These are the sounds from in-frame microphone. This is the sound from studio microphone, and this is the sound from cinematic microphone. Enjoy the view. You can see here that the standard microphone catches all the background noise like wind and the traffic, but the in-frame and studio microphones isolate your voice and tune down a lot of background noise. The cinematic microphones are somewhere in the middle. They enhances your voice to some level, but do not cut down all the background noise. With this new setup, it's no longer necessary to carry an external mic all the time. And the second thing those neural engine core helps to do is compute for Apple Intelligence. The whole idea behind this feature is to make your iPhone smarter and more intuitive locally without going to a third-party website like ChatGPT. For example, you will be able to personalize your writing, generate images from text, or even convert text to images, all on the device and directly within Apple's default apps. You will be able to ask Siri to draft emails, write personalized messages, or even create custom visuals based on your instructions, all without needing any external help. But here is the problem with software features like this. It's yet to be released with the next iOS update. That's really shocking that a company like Apple missed a launch deadline for a feature so important. And another catch is, it will not come in every iPhone. Really, when I try to install the beta version of the iOS 18.1 so I can show you guys how it looks like, I noticed that the AI feature will not be available in the EU. Then I went online and found that for now it will only be available in a handful of countries and come to other countries later in next year. So it does not matter if you have the new iPhones which are capable of this great feature, you may only experience it months after buying it depending on where you live. But there is one more thing where iPhone 16 has evolved a lot more than any other smartphone. That is being the savior in emergency situations. Apple's new satellite communication features includes emergency SOS, messages, and even roadside assistance. Combining this with the crash detection makes it the ultimate savior. Imagine being in an accident. Your iPhone will send an SOS message to the emergency services as well as to your emergency contacts. Or imagine being in an area without cell phone service during hiking or camping. With the iPhone 16 Pro, you can still send emergency messages and get help through satellites. It's one of those features you hope you'll never need, but if you do, it's a game changer. This upgrade is more about personal safety and knowing that your phone can assist in life-threatening situations. And then there's one final thing that makes both of these phones feel quite similar and killed all my excitement. And it's not only Apple's fault, it's mine too. So whenever you buy a new phone or a new device, you spend some time in discovering its features, new UI, new apps, new settings, but you don't get to do all these things with an iPhone. Apple has this quick transfer tool which can transfer all your data, settings and preferences to your new iPhone. Look, all my apps on home screen look exactly the same as my old phone. Even the wallpapers get transferred to the new phone. So if you want to feel new and upgraded, then you have to at least change the theme or wallpaper. Otherwise, it's not gonna happen. Secondly, I may feel good about my new iPhone when I feel the new titanium body, matte finish back glass, holding my finger at the camera bump, and overall enjoying this beautiful, lightweight beast of a smartphone. But like a normal person, I ordered a silicone phone cover for it in my favorite black color. And now, my new iPhone physically feels the same as my old iPhones. It's very convenient and safe, but killed all my excitement. And now sometimes I forgot that I have upgraded to an iPhone which is 5 years advanced. But at the end of the day, there's no denying that under the hood, the iPhone 16 Pro is a beast. It's lightweight, powerful, and packed with features that makes it stand out. You'll feel it in the performance, in the cameras, and definitely in the safety features. It's just that you could really appreciate the details to feel like you've made a leap. So if you're upgrading from the iPhone 11 like I did, there's plenty of things to be excited about. Just don't expect that instant wow factor in everyday use, unless you change the wallpaper or skip the case and live on the edge. That's all for today. See you next time. Thank you.